After a few straight weeks of American majors, international Smash took center stage this past weekend. There were in fact 2 major tournaments this weekend. Lei Odyssey, a brand new French invitational featuring top talent from all around the world, made its stunning debut. In Japan, a familiar major series, Mysuma Top, returned as a super major for its 10th iteration. Without further ado, let's dive into the action. Our attention first turns to France. Although Lei Odyssey was also a 16-person invitational, its format was quite a bit different from the likes of Summit or the Gimvitational. Due to time constraints, not only were the pools best of 3, tiebreakers were also done by head-to-head records and game count instead of tiebreaker sets. But most importantly, only first place of a pool moved on to winner's side of the final bracket. Second and third started the final day in losers, and fourth was eliminated right off the bat. With these pools having way higher stakes than usual, chaos was bound to happen, and boy, was this event chaotic. Normally we would cover the winner first and then work our way down, but as we do with most invitationals, in this case, we think it's necessary to talk about the pools first so that we can understand how such a bracket progression could even happen. Day 1 started off with Pool A. Featuring Gluttony, Gact, Mudace, and Mr. R, this group had a clear favorite. But not only did Gluttony lose to last seed Mr. R, only the second time this has ever happened in their ultimate competitive history, after winning against Mudace and losing against Gact, Gluto's tournament life was at stake during Mr. R versus Mudace. Thanks to Mudace winning this set, the tiebreakers between both Mudace and Gact as well as Mr. R and Gluttony were settled by head-to-head results. This resulted in Mudace starting main bracket in winner's side, both Gact and Mr. R starting in loser's side, and Gluttony, the first seed of the tournament, not even making it to day 2 and bowing out at 13th. Pool B was similarly chaotic. It featured Shutone, Cosmos, Ashimo, and Mars' replacement Flo. Although Flo made a valiant effort, he sadly went 0-3. That meant due to Cosmos beating Ashimo, Ashimo beating Shutone, and Shutone beating Cosmos, there was another 3-way tie, although at least this resolution didn't result in an elimination. By game count, it meant that Cosmos won the pool, with Shutone placing second and Ashimo placing third. Pool C was the most normal pool out of all of them. Other than Orion beating T, every match went according to seeding, and due to head-to-head tiebreaks, the result of the pool went exactly as seeded. T first, Bloom Forever second, Fatality third, and Orion fourth. Pool D was maybe the most tragic. With Pasariman unexpectedly being the only person to 3-0 his pool, there was a 3-way tie for second between Ken, Raflo, and Siski. Because Ken beat Raflo, Raflo beat Siski, and Siski beat Ken, at the end of it all, Siski had a better game count than both of the other competitors and earned second. But who would be eliminated got decided by the last match of the pool, Pasariman versus Raflo. And due to Pasariman winning 2-1 as opposed to 2-0 as he did against Ken, Raflo ended up making it to day 2, while Ken was eliminated. In main bracket, thankfully, we got to see all matches played as best of 5. Fatality got matched into Gact, and although he did take a game, Gact was too much for him to handle, making the Falcon Extraordinaire fall at 9th. Siski versus Ashimo was a match for the ages, with both players showing incredible proficiency in the matchup, with Ashimo closing out the set in a nail-biter game 5, making Siski the second 9th place finisher. The last remaining Frenchman in the bracket, Raflo, drew who is very likely the worst opponent he could have faced. With Europe being known for being subpar against Olimar, Shutone would prove to be too big a hurdle for Raflo to handle, eliminating him at 9th. The final top 8 qualifying match was a European matchup between Mr. R and Bloom Forever. While the set was very competitive, a raindrop that would have taken a game was missed in Game 3. A pivotal moment in what would go on to be a 3-1 win for the British Bayonetta sensation. For 7th, there were 2 very interesting matches, and for 2 very different reasons. Ashimo vs. Gact was a rematch from Kagaribi 7, where Ashimo defeated Gact in a Game 5 set to qualify for the Gimvitational. And just as it seemed that history would repeat itself with Ashimo on the way to a huge comeback, this happened.
Stay out of the terrain. Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
This heartbreaker of an ending was accompanied by one of the most electric pop-offs in recent history by Gact. On the other end, we had Bloom Forever versus Shutone. Shutone was the other favorite to win the entire event, due to Europe's aforementioned weakness against Olimar. Nevertheless, Bloom did the unthinkable. Playing Mii Brawler with some actual combos this time, he beat Shutone 3-0, taking 2 games off of his Aegis and 1 game off of the Olimar, finally ending Europe's Olimar curse. Meanwhile, on the winner's side, there was a classic battle of Japan versus USA. Part 1 was Cosmos versus T. The pair had played twice before this tournament, with T winning both times, and their last encounter at Double Down went 3-0 in favor of the Japanese Pac-Man. But after going down 2-0, Cosmos pulled out all the stops. After taking a game off of T's Kazuya on Final Destination, he completed the reverse 3-0 by beating his Pac-Man with... Wait, hold on, is that Corrin? Hang on, Yeah. Your eyes are not deceiving you. The year is still 2022, we're still playing Smash Ultimate, and yes, Cosmos is making major moves with Corrin. Cosmos gave the character another flavor of shine this weekend, and that's not even including his legendary pop-off. The other side of winter semifinals featured Mudace versus Pasadimon, and it was another reverse 3-0. After Mudace fell behind 2-0, he adapted to Pasadimon's quite different version of Fox, and ended up beating him quite convincingly in games 3, 4, and 5, two-stocking him in all 3 of those games. For 5th place, sadly, a true team kill had to happen. Team Zeta's Gact and T had to face off against each other, and although all 3 matches went down to a last stock situation, T was always a step ahead, defeating Gact 3-0 and eliminating him at 5th. Meanwhile, on the other side, Europe's last hope had to face off against Pasadimon. Opting once again for his Mii Brawler for the full set, Bloom Forever was able to take a decisive Game 1, but after that, Pasadimon seemingly figured out the Brawler, and although Bloom took a close Game 4, Pasadimon managed to close out the set and move on. Bloom continues to post strong results at majors with international competition, adding 5th at Lei Odyssey to his win at VCA 2022 and 13th place at Double Down. In losers semis, the 2 remaining Japanese players fought for the title of last one standing, and this match might have been over before it even started. Pasadimon had earlier named T as the opponent he was most afraid of, and the gameplay justified that statement. Although it was mainly the Kazuya he mentioned being wary of, the Pac-Man was enough for T to close it out in just 3 games. Following that on the winner's side, the All-American Winners Final, something that basically no one predicted, happened. Cosmos, after losing Game 1, was poised to take the set 3-1. An incredible comeback by Mudace during Game 4 stopped Cosmos' momentum, but only for a moment. Cosmos was able to claim the decisive Game 5 though, and move on to Grand Finals. In Losers Finals, T faced off against Mudace. This was the one matchup Mudace wanted to avoid, a character and player matchup that has even forced him to try out secondaries like Bayonetta in previous encounters. In the end, Mudace stuck to his guns and opted for Peach in every game. He lost 3-1, but he looked more comfortable in the matchup than ever, which is certainly promising for his future, even if he still thinks it's unwinnable. In Grand Finals, Cosmos and T met once again, but this time T was ready. Even before the tournament started, the answer to the question who will win the tournament was clearly none other than himself. He proved that by not only demolishing the Aegis like he did in their first set, but also adapting to the Corrin as well, eventually winning in 6-0 fashion. And if you've noticed, T's run was quite incredible. Even though his Kazuya put in no work this weekend, losing both games it was used in, against Orion and in the first set against Cosmos, his Pac-Man played all the more on point. After falling to losers, T won 5 sets straight against world-class opponents, only dropping a single game to Mudace in the process. Despite an All-American Winners Finals, thanks to T, Japan stands strong on the international stage once again. And on that note, where else could we move our attention to other than Japan itself, where the 10th iteration of the Mysuma Top Series attracted enough talent to be classified as a supermajor? Here, I'll give you a second to guess who won it. Time's up. It was acola. Are you even surprised at this point? The Steve Extraordinaire was coming off a rather disappointing, at least by his absurd standards, 4th place finish at Summit 5. But this weekend, he came back with a vengeance. Continuing his streak of winning every open bracket major he's ever entered, with this being the 4th one, he didn't drop a set and only lost 4 games throughout the entire tournament. His win also means that the 2 most prominent events of the weekend were won by members of the same org, Team Zeta, whose recent additions to the roster have been nothing but aces thus far. By the way, it wasn't as if his first seed gave acola an easy bracket either. He beat Repo, very likely Japan's best Mega Man at the moment, in a convincing 3-0 fashion, after which he beat Yaman Action 3-0 and Sigma, the best Toon Link, 3-1, all three of whom earned themselves a spot on the Japanese iteration of the PGRU V3. And by the way, all of that was just to get into top 8. There are some very familiar faces greeted him. He beat Hero, the best Bowser in the world, and part of Japan's top 10 to watch in a nail-biter Game 5 set. He took out the player who had been his stiffest competition and strongest rival to date, Yoshidora, in 3-1 fashion, even using Aegis for a game. And to cap it all off after that winner's finals performance, he took down his former teammate Mia in a clean 3-0, even forcing him to switch off Mr. Game & Watch and onto Hero. Mia, currently one of the most hot and cold players in Japan, was on top of his game this weekend. Seeded 10th, he had one of the biggest runs this weekend, with a seed performance rating of +5. After falling to losers shortly before top 8, losing 3-1 to Yoshidora, he beat now a Mario main and Alice, a Roy main with recent wins over acola and Coney, both 3-1. After this, he breezed through 2 decisive 3-0s, first against Hero, which was so bad it brought out a desperation Incineroar? Well, after that he took out Yauda, Japan's best Samus and another one of Japan's top 50. Mia would then take the run back against Yoshidora in a close Game 5 while also hitting the most disrespectful clip of the tournament before falling to acola in Grand Finals. Speaking of Yoshidora though, the Mysuma Top Series apparently brings out the best in him. At Mysuma Top 6 last year, he achieved his first major Top 4. At Mysuma Top 7, he achieved his first major Top 3, and at Mysuma Top 8, he achieved his first major win. Here, he brings home another incredible performance, getting 3rd. But it wasn't just any other 3rd, if there is such a thing. This tournament was a platinum event, so he now comfortably has enough points to qualify for the Smash World Tour, meaning if all stars align, we will get to see him compete in the United States for the first time since his emergence as one of the post-lockdown era's best players. He earned this all while beating some of the best Japan has to offer, that being Hikaru 3-0, Mia 3-1, and Summit winner Proto Bantam in a reverse 3-0. 4 of those 5 games against Proto came in a matchup that many consider to be one of Yoshi's worst, Lucina. It was an incredible run that was only stopped by the prodigious double whammy that is acola into Mia. Rounding out the top 4, we have what is arguably the biggest run of the tournament, coming from Samus main Yauda. As the 30th seed, he had to run into Proto Bantam in the first round of top 96 and fell 3-1. Daisy main Umeki then pushed him to the brink of elimination in a Game 5 set, but from there, he more than shifted up a gear. Wins over Kaminabe, number 32 on the NA PGR Atorie, and Sigma, all in a 3-0 fashion, got him into top 8. Where he then beat Kameme 3-2 and also got the run back on Proto 3-1. By the time all was said and done, Yauda won 7 straight sets and losers before falling to Mia. This run clocked in at an impressive +6 SPR and on its way amassed a combined upset factor of, get this, 19. The other big surprise in top 8 was Alice, who since getting more active in May of this year has entered 3 majors, including this one, 6 regionals, and a whopping 17 locals in that time period. And over that time, only missed 4 instances of the Mysuma Hit local series. Grinding truly does pay off, as he achieved his first major top 8 here, beating Ryuo, Tora, Repo, and Pichu Extraordinaire Niatono on his way to 7th place, only losing to Abadango and Mia in the process. As per usual, the tournament was riddled with upsets. There were a total of 14 upsets of upset factor 5 or higher. Let's talk about some of the biggest ones. Japan's premier Captain Falcon Jogibu suffered the biggest upset of the tournament, losing to Emu Star, a Falco main in an upset factor of 9 in his first round. Funnily enough, this wasn't the first time Jogibu was defeated by this particular player, as he lost to Emu Star at Tokyo Grand Slam 4, a 96-man regional way back in April of 2021. Suffering a similar fate was Japan's best solo Sheik main Aim, getting defeated by No Ho-Ho in the first round for an upset factor of 8. Tragically, the top 3 of the last iteration of Mysuma, not named acola, couldn't escape a big upset either. The Dr. Mario that shocked the world by getting 3rd at a major tragically fell to Fudada Ramen, a Game & Watch main in an upset factor of 7. On the other side, Shirayuki lost his pools finals to a piranha plant named Budashu in an upset factor of 8. Now, if you've been paying attention and twiddling your thumbs waiting for us to mention a particular fan favorite player, we're about to get to that now. That's right, we're going to talk about Zachary. He was definitely the biggest question mark coming into this tournament, only having entered 2 majors this year. and he's won every one of them. But this momentum came to a shocking, grinding halt this weekend as he fell to Robmain Kuropanzu and Wolfmain Shorty for 49th. Before we sign off, we also have to talk about one more enigma of a player, Proto Bantam. Being almost unbeatable in North America, boasting back-to-back major wins, his Japanese results are somewhat lagging behind. With his 5th place finish this weekend, it's been 10 months since his last major win and almost exactly a year since his last open bracket major win at a Japanese major. It'll be interesting going forward to follow the curious case of the man who seemingly is simply better when he's thousands of miles away from home. Well, that'll about cover it. With another crazy weekend behind us, worry not because there is another one just around the corner, and boy, this one's a doozy. Next week brings us the Ludwig Invitational, a super major for both Melee and Ultimate, and being one of the most stacked events, if not the most stacked event of all time for both games. We'll be delivering an extended recap for Smash Ultimate at the Ludwig Invitational, so smash that subscribe button to get prepared for what should be one of the craziest events of not just the year, but maybe ever. Until then, I've been Kimona, and from all of us here at PGstats, we thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.